Friday afternoon, morning, evening, Saturday morning, wherever you are. How you doing?
Good. It's Friday. It's finished.
It's
Or
finished.
at least there is impression of being finished until I receive next email. But
Well, I'm on.
officially, it's done.
Well, for you it is. It's 8 p.m. where you are. It's 2 p.m. where I am, so I'm on my lunch break. So,
It's not my fault that we in Europe start earlier.
Yeah, okay. 6 hours now, right?
Yeah.
It's 8. Yeah, so you're 6 because you went through time change this weekend. Summertime, I think is what you call it, right?
I have no idea. I mean, my watch tells me. Sorry, my phone tells me what's the time, so I have no idea.
It doesn't matter. Okay,
Exactly.
just in case you're here and you don't know who we are, my name is Darren.
And I'm Victor.
This is Victor. We're the co-host of the DevOps Paradox podcast, and on Friday afternoons, at least for a while, we're planning on doing client work, not getting in our way. These virtual coffees, or in my case, virtual sodas. I think Victor has
I'm fighting with fire with fire.
Oh, that's right. He has a Corona. I've got a Coke Zero. So here's to you this afternoon, evening, wherever you are. So, what did you have? Okay, I'm a system administrator, blah, 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 blah. What's the last line
Brilliant.
on that?
I love it.
I solve problems. I can't read it. I'm wearing Spider-Man, so it's...
Yeah, I solve problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's one of those days, right? If you've got questions for us, go ahead and put them in the comments, or actually in the chat, not in the comments, not below comments, but over to the... I don't remember. I think it's that side. Yep. So if you go over to the... Go to the other side of Victor. So Victor, point to your left. Point to your left. No, your left. Not behind you, to your left. There you go. Yeah. You'll find the chat. Just go ask us questions over there, or just say hey, whatever. It's Friday, right? It's Friday. I'm in the house. Victor's in the house. Everybody's in the house, unless you're out on a walk. Now, where I live, I can still get out and walk around and do stuff because I live out in the country. Victor, you were telling me a story that you can't even leave the house except to go to the grocery store?
Yes, and that results in an increased consumption of beer, because I need to figure out the reason to go out. I need to have a good reason. I need to go to a grocery store. And since there is a limit of how much food I can eat, I bring quantities of beer.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to bring up something. So I live outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. Give me a minute while I'm pulling this up. But let me see if I can get this up, because you'll laugh at this. Again, for somebody that doesn't drink at all, I could care less. But here, let me see if I can pull it up, and then I'll share my screen here. So this is live as of whatever today is. I've lost track now. So share screen. Where's my share screen? Okay, find my application window. And just to prove it, yes, even during this time, I'm not interested in signing up. Sorry, Charlotte Observer. But if we go down here just a hair, yes, and I'll accept the cookies too. Let's see, where was it? Because I saw this when I was getting ready to come up. Here it is. Liquor sales spike as, let's see if I can do it in private window. That's a trick. Oh, wait, I don't know that's going to show. I don't know what's going to show. Okay, well, I can't do it. Well, actually, this one may still be there. So anyway, let's get to the full. I should have had this ready, but I don't, so that's okay. Oh, yeah, that's still good. So we got here, liquor sales spike as MEC ABC stores. Now, the state runs, in case you're not aware, in North Carolina, the state runs all of the alcohol sales. Alcohol, blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember what ABC stands for. But basically, it's like, hey, there are 40 ABC stores, and they have the complete corner on the market. So, since you can't go out and go to the restaurants or bars, big spike. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm sad. Now my daughter...
If it's a funny consolation here, where I live in Spain, all public stores are closed except groceries and places that sell wine. Those are the only two types of stores that are allowed to be open.
Yeah, so my daughter went out and bought the sodas for me because I was out of sodas, and she ran a couple small errands for us because we're quarantined. I can't go out. Not so much that I can't. I'm in great health, but my wife has had some issues, so I have to stay in so I don't potentially cause problems for her. So I'm getting used to my daughter taking care of all of our errands. I never have to leave the house. This is pretty good. Hey, we got a hey guys.
Hey, you ask. We have no subject to talk
No
about. We did
questions.
not
Come on,
prepare.
ask questions.
If nobody, yes,
Yeah, because we don't have anything. Now, Victor said, and I've stated this too, this you can ask us anything
yes,
except don't ask us CICD, or at least not directed which one's better.
yes. That's the only restriction. Exactly.
Yeah. But if you want to ask us about, oh, by the way, how does this work in something? We'll make what is it? A runtime determination whether or not we'll answer it or not. But more than likely, if you want to ask us about anything else, which Kubernetes distribution is the best?
GKE next.
You gotta. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So that's the best cloud today. As of
Yes.
April 3rd, the easiest one to deploy that gives you all the goodness. The auto scaling, the easy upgrades, I'm going in and out of focus. GKE does all of that out of the box.
Yeah.
AKS and EKS do not.
I mean, somehow, yeah. I mean, AKS is getting there, but
It's getting better.
Yeah.
But EKS, no, it doesn't. You got to do it all yourself.
It's also getting better, but it's not good.
Yeah. Now, I was talking with a client last week, I think, and they're actually running Kubernetes on-prem using just the vanilla Kubernetes distributions. They were running 17. Is that the GA one? I've lost track. I haven't looked
I
this
think
week.
it's. I don't count anymore.
I can't remember if it's 17 or 18. This GA right now, but so they're running 17. It's like, wow, okay. So you're willing to live on the edge right now, just because number one, you don't have vendor support, and number two, you're running the latest GA, which should be fine. But it's just what it is.
So, if you told me that you're running latest Kubernetes like 2 years ago or even a year
Yeah.
ago, I would say there might be something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But for a year now, Kubernetes is mostly focused on stabilization and bug fixes, stuff like that. We don't have many exciting things anymore, which is a good thing. It means that it is mature, right?
Yeah. And it looks like 18. Heck, I'll go ahead and pop this back up. 18 is currently the GA one, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So
See?
I'd lost track. That's the good thing, though, is Kubernetes as a project is quarterly releases, right? They've at least published that as the standard for now. So at least you're not going to get surprised on that, hopefully.
But yeah, and it doesn't really matter anymore that much again, because almost everything that we are planning now to use and stuff like those are the things sitting on top of Kubernetes.
Yeah.
So it's
If
a
you're,
good situation.
yeah. Now, where is it a bad situation? It's
Say
currently a
again?
good situation. Where do we have problems? So people still here. Keep talking for a second. Kelsey Hightower had it.
La
Kelsey,
la 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 la
okay.
la la la.
No, talk for real. Kelsey Hightower had a great tweet this morning, or my morning. Did you see it?
No, I didn't.
All right, hang on a second. So let me pull it up here. Hang on a second, because this was beyond true for me. Okay, I'm still pulling it up. Okay, what's Kelsey's? Yeah, there we go. All right, so let me pop it back over here. So we pull this up here. Kelsey, if you don't know who Kelsey is, he works currently for Google, I believe is true.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's not it. Where is it? Right here. So you want to
Yeah.
roll your own application platform. You need Linux, Docker, Kubernetes, Istio, all the way through Spinnaker, Jenkins. And the best part of this, and I'll go ahead and zoom in for the people that are having a hard time seeing it. Whoops, that's the wrong one to be zooming. This one is, and I almost forgot, you're going to need servers, people, and glue. Lots of glue.
Absolutely. But there is one thing that is missing here.
Okay.
Is that the amount of glue and people that you would need to bring in to do exactly the same thing without Kubernetes would be infinitely bigger. The
Yeah.
real question is whether you need all those things. People tend
Right.
to just kind of like, oh, everything that is shiny, I need it, I need it, I need it. I need Vault, I need service mesh, I need this, I need it. And people exaggerate. But if we would say, yes, you do need all, this specific use case do need all of those, I would challenge anybody to set up something remotely like that without Kubernetes.
Yep.
And then call me in 2021 when you're finished.
And that's December of 2021, not January of 2021. But it's just going to take you
I'm being optimistic. Let it be January.
Yeah,
if you
I
want
know.
as well.
Okay, so all right, so let's stay there for just a second. So I've got Kubernetes installed, and that's it. What else do I need? I need monitoring. So Prometheus, Grafana, right? Is
Monitoring,
okay.
logging.
Okay.
You need some sort of networking better than what comes out of the box. Service mesh is what the umbrella for most of them today.
Right.
You need external storage. You need to some form of certificates. I don't know if that's 5 or 6 now. Yep. And that's a bare minimum that comes to my mind. I mean, I probably missed something, but that would be and then yes, secrets management.
Yes. So
again, most of those things are available in Kubernetes.
Yeah.
It's just that we consider them so basic that you need to extend it.
Yeah, they're usable, but not what you want to use for real life, I guess.
Or yes, I mean, the real problem is that our expectations are so much higher than only a year or two ago. I mean, most companies would be thrilled if they would have in their current setup that is not Kubernetes something equivalent to Kubernetes secrets. Oh, it would be amazing, right?
Right.
And kind of most companies or teams would dream to have such networking as basic one implemented out of the box in Kubernetes. So it's not that those are basic. It's just that they were not basic, but our needs are now so much higher, so much bigger, greater. Yeah.
Hey, we have some questions. Oh wait.
Yes, please.
I got to put this comment in from Jay. This was one of the comments underneath Kelsey, or one of the other ones from Kelsey was, we used to have LAMP, now we have A24Z. So you have A and all the letters, the other 24 letters, and then Z or Z, depending on where you're from.
Okay, it took me a while to figure it out because other alphabets have more than 36 letters.
Yeah, A2Z, but no, that's A24Z because there's 26 letters.
Yeah.
It was fun. All right, so here comes some questions. You ready?
Okay, shoot.
Here we go.
Is Docker Swarm? You read it.
Okay.
My accent is horrible.
Okay, so is Docker Swarm dead? And is there no place for it in a production environment? Everybody says Kubernetes is hard to operate, and we can't go to cloud because of GDPR. I currently live in Germany. Wait, hang on. There's a B-side to this. Docker Swarm seems easy to start and to host a couple of containers ourselves. I'm in a small team in a big company with old legacy systems who don't know anything about containers. Wait, one more.
Oh, more.
And final. If Kubernetes is the only way, how can we as a small team start with Kubernetes on premise?
Okay, now go to the first one. Okay, if you think that I remembered all that, you're terribly wrong.
I know. So that's the whole stack. So we'll start here first, and we'll work our way through it.
Yes, Docker Swarm is dead. That's the shortest answer and the longest one.
Okay.
If you're dead, you're dead.
Is there any other And since he says on-prem, that means you couldn't even go with a hosted Swarm solution, which there are a few still alive.
Yeah.
Is there anything else besides Kubernetes that's bleeding into the second part of the question?
So yes, you can use Swarm. So on a first look, you can say, yes, you can use Swarm in production, and it will definitely give you benefits over not using containers at all. I agree on that. However, and I also agree that there is that the learning curve is much less steep. I don't know, how do you say opposite of steep? It's not as steep as Kubernetes.
Right.
However, there is some learning to do, right? For everything, including that.
Yes.
So my first question kind of would be, does it make sense to invest time to learn it? It's not for free. It's not as big as Kubernetes, but it's not for free. Does it worth investing time both for your company and for you as a person, right? We're all trying to figure out where to invest next, right? And Swarm is not that. I think it's gone away. I don't see any future in it. Now, also, there are some. What really is important is to know the use case. Because if you're going to use Swarm and you need really only the things that Swarm offer, it's cool, ignoring that it's dead. So if it wouldn't be dead, it's good.
Right.
But the problem is that most likely we find out that what Swarm offers is not enough. And a simple example, Swarm doesn't have, or at least it didn't have until a year ago when I stopped following it, right? It didn't have equivalent to Ingress. So you cannot route traffic based on domain, subdomain, paths and all those things, which basically every company needs to do, right?
Right.
It's almost impossible not to have to do that. It doesn't have that baked in. So you would need to use some other projects outside of Kubernetes, Swarm, to accomplish that. And those projects are mostly dead, including the one that I started. Nobody develops them. And that brings me to my next reason why you shouldn't. And that is that when something is dead, even if it's a good use case for you, the ecosystem around it is dead as well, right?
Right.
And you will find out, if you have a stateful application, you will find out that it's miserable. It's close to impossible to run it with Swarm, and so on and so forth. So Swarm is not enough, besides being dead, and Kubernetes might be too much. That's true. So you need to figure out what matters most.
Okay.
I would not touch Swarm anymore.
Yeah, so let's go back to his last part. We'll leave the middle out because the middle part was we're a small team in a big company without any kind of container smarts. My words, not his.
Yeah.
But if Kubernetes is the only way, how can you start with Kubernetes?
I would say Rancher for on-prem.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's free. It has great UI. You can click. I really recommend it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up over here right now, and I'll go ahead and we'll talk about that in a second. But so here we're talking about Rancher. It's rancher.com. They are a vendor, but then they also have the open source flavor of it too. So if you go over to get started, oh yes, thank you. See, you can tell we're live because things are going. So there's enterprise, they go all this. In fact, they just had an announcement last week, where they were doing some other cooler stuff too. So for on-prem, I think Ranchers, I can't think of anybody else. I mean, like I was talking about, I have a client that's using just the vanilla Kubernetes distribution. I would not recommend that in general, just because. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but with Rancher being there, it's okay. Now, hold your thought for a second. Answer this question.
I haven't used it myself, so I cannot really judge.
So what Jay's asking about there is this, K3S, and we've talked about this a little bit on the side, is it's built for IoT and edge. I haven't tried running real workloads on this.
Me neither. I
So
just
I
am so.
But here's the thing.
I'm incapable. I'm incapable of putting a nail in my wall like my wife does it, and then putting the light bulb. Me assembling IoT would be impossible.
Yeah. In fact, I just realized I wasn't sharing this. So this is k3s.io. And also notice in the upper left-hand corner, it's from Rancher. So even if you, let's say you decided, because Victor and I don't have any hands-on with this specifically, let's say you tried out K3S and it didn't work. Well, you just go back to the regular flavor of Rancher to get your normal Kubernetes, for lack of a better term.
And kind of like you, over time, establish certain opinion and relationship with certain companies. And for me now, knowing that, and I didn't know that I'm embarrassed, but knowing that comes from Rancher, that's already a recommendation. I know nothing about it. It comes from Rancher. It must be good. The same thing what I was saying for Hashi, for example, in STLM, right? It comes from HashiCorp. It must be good. Same thing for Rancher.
Yeah. But if you're already all right, so let's go here for a second. If you're already on-prem and you're in Germany, you're probably SUSE, would be my guess. Or a high probability that you're SUSE. Does SUSE have a distribution?
Yes, they do. I was in a conversation with SUSE like literally 3 hours ago on that subject. Yes, they do. So I haven't used it, so I cannot recommend or not recommend.
Right, but if you're a SUSE shop, and again, he was just talking about it a few hours ago. I've not looked at it, so I don't even. Well, hey, let's go. We have this thing called the internet, and let's see if there's anything here, and I'll put it up here on the big screen. So once it comes up, it's like SUSE Kubernetes, blah, 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 blah. Oh, they've got a little how to choose the right platform. That might be a good thing to look at, right? If you're a SUSE shop anyway. Now, I wasn't going down this path, but you said Germany, and it's like, okay, that's normally SUSE. Let's go the other direction. If you're a Red Hat shop, should you consider going with OpenShift?
I cannot answer that question without counter question. Should you be Red Hat shop?
Okay. Right. So ignoring that, if you're full in on Red Hat and everything has to be Red Hat, and you're current on Red Hat number 2, you're not a Red Hat. You're calling yourself a Red Hat shop, and your latest version of Red Hat is Red Hat 6. You're not a Red Hat shop. You're getting ready to go out of business.
Exactly. You won't have a shop for long.
You won't have a shop for long. OpenShift is okay, right?
No, OpenShift is fantastic. I think it's great, and it solves a lot of problems, and some of them in ways that Kubernetes is not solving today. Yeah. But it's not Kubernetes.
But it's not Kubernetes.
I mean, it doesn't comply with Kubernetes API. I cannot get away from it or jump into it from something else. So if only it would be a bit more Kubernetes and a bit less OpenShift, I would be fine with that.
Yeah. Again, let's go back to this last one here. If he's in Germany, SUSE is probably number 1. Number 2 would probably be what? IBM behind that?
No.
Not IBM, not in Germany? I don't know.
No, probably it is. It's just that I heard the word and my natural reaction is no.
I know. Well, but if here's what I'm trying to get to is whatever your platform, your OS platform is today, and if you have contracts with said companies, that's something to consider. I'm not saying to do it, but it's something that should be on the list.
So here's the real thing, is that those questions were much more relevant a year ago, maybe?
Yes.
Because the differentiators between different Kubernetes platforms were bigger. I think it kind of like Kubernetes. That's a solved story, and I think that almost everybody got to more or less the same level. Now, when we're talking about Kubernetes as a platform that you run, now as a service, that's a different story because it really depends a lot on many other different things, right? Who operates it and stuff like that. But on-prem, just kind of like Google random word Kubernetes, some on-prem, and whatever comes first is fine. You need to just choose whether you want to pay for support or not.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to do it live. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, what did you say, Google? You said Kubernetes.
Yeah, Kubernetes on-prem. I'll
go and spell it out, on-premise.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to ignore
Let's see how many ads we get. Okay, all right, so without the first one, there's Platform 9. Never heard of them. All right, let's see.
Kubespray, that's not a distribution, that's rather, okay.
Yeah, so Platform 9, on-premises, how, why. I'm guessing this is a DIY, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, here, let's agree to always agree with this. If you have any Kubernetes vendors saying that you need to be using platters instead of SSD, run far away.
Look, my phone has
away.
My laptop and my phone has SSD, and my external drives are SSD. So if I can afford it, company can afford it.
Oh, here's another one. This is an interesting. Now, again, we're not sponsored by any of these people. All right, so we're just Googling and finding things. But I'm pulling out some names I've heard before. Cubular. These guys are interesting because I've run into them, I think, once. And I've talked to somebody else that was considering them. They've got some very interesting strategies, as in you buy Cubular, whatever, and then you can run it anywhere. Take your pick. And if you decide, you know what, I'm fed up with, again, nothing bad here. I initially started in AWS. I got fed up with AWS, and I go to Azure. You just stick with Cubular. You're not having to relearn EKS versus AKS. That's not a bad idea, right? That's a pretty reasonable thought.
But that's basically in line with what I said before, that kind of Kubernetes, that's a done story. Everybody has a good enough solution. Everything is good and all those things. The challenge, and for the direct answer to the question is any.
Yep.
Now, when we start talking about next levels, then multi-cluster, multi-provider, runs everywhere, this and that. Those are different stories.
Different stories. And then we have a, thanks guys, in our data center we can choose which OS. We have mostly Windows and Ubuntu. Ubuntu is their go-to distribution.
Yeah, so can you modify the text, Darin, or it needs to be as is?
As is.
Okay,
is it too small?
If you can, I thought if you can put a strike over Windows.
Oh, no, I can't modify it. Okay, so you're poking, but go ahead and keep going, because there is a legitimate reason for having Windows servers in Kubernetes.
Yes, if you have to run Windows loads, then it makes a lot of sense. No, I'm exaggerating. I always exaggerate. But if you don't have to, so if you can choose between Linux and Windows, choose Linux. There is absolutely no doubt. Now, if you have to have Windows, just as you might have to have Macs, right? And then you run Macs. I mean, that's a requirement, so that's okay. But if you have, I remember a couple of years ago, I had very heated arguments and then favorites among Linux distributions. Now I don't care anymore. I honestly don't care anymore.
Doesn't matter.
Kind of I don't care.
You don't care because they all should be compliant. They should be keeping the numbers the same. And if you run into a shop that's got OpenShift, at least you know what you're running into. Yeah. Because OpenShift is opinionated in how it works. I just pulled this up on the Ubuntu side, and it says multi-cloud Kubernetes, blah, blah, blah. But they've got some of these other things too. Hey, of course, they're trying to sell me something. No, I don't want to talk about your products. Sorry if you're watching. But then you got workstation and appliances. You've got other things that are supported by Canonical. So if you already have support from Canonical, that might be something to look at. But again, you're not going to go wrong with that. And if you have to have Windows workloads, Windows 2019 only, please, because that's the only thing that works. But that's good. Got another question. Side projects.
That's a trick question. He knows
What day of the week it is? Yeah.
Side projects. So our side project, I don't know, maybe we have different side projects, but one that we both have as a joint project is that we are working on chaos engineering in Kubernetes, finishing, last touches, almost there.
PR's done, merged.
Yes. So chapter and a half missing, and one support ticket from Udemy. Those two things are missing.
Yeah. I'm having to learn Python again. I'm not really joyous about that, but
I'm in a way ashamed of myself because we were talking about this and who's gonna do it. And when you said that I'm gonna do PR, it was okay, great.
yeah, because you just didn't want to deal with it.
I
haven't done Python development in 13 years. But it wasn't that big of a deal. I just had to I basically had to relearn all the data structures. So
the last information I have in my head, the last conversation I had about Python was, are we going to use 2 or 3? And that was like 2000 something.
Yeah, well, so for right now, my side projects are, if you watched last week's video, last Friday's video, I was in my normal day-to-day office. I've set up a studio since then, so I'm having to get ready for starting to teach some classes remotely. So I'm having to change my teaching strategies, my teaching style, my everything. So that's part of the side project, is trying to get, something set up to where I can do all sorts of more interactive stuff and figure out how to keep people engaged for an 8-hour course, which is going to be a challenge.
It will.
Because you're used to having, this as a speaker, you get up on stage and if you're talking to an empty room, the energy level is completely different than if the room is packed. And even in a classroom of 20 people or 16 people, I can draw off that energy. Now all I have is this lens, and that's it.
Yeah, I did quite a few times different kind of sessions, workshops type of stuff with O'Reilly.
Yep.
And it's a horrifying experience. Not being able to see anybody is just horrifyingly difficult.
Yep. And speaking of which, if you're going to be around, because unfortunately I won't be able to see this, but this is happening on April 15th, allthetalks.online. This coming Wednesday is our 50th episode of DevOps Paradox. We interview Patrick Dubois, who is the grandfather of DevOps. And he's with SNCC. Is that how you say it? SNCC?
Probably.
SNYK.
Let's go with
it. Yeah. And so this is being hosted by SNCC, by these guys down here. So they got the cool Doberman logo. So he's going to be there, but they don't have the speakers up here yet. But this is fully remote, and he's working through trying to figure out how to do some cool stuff, like even online karaoke. So listen to the episode that comes out this coming Wednesday, which is going to be Wednesday the, oh dear, I don't even remember anymore, whatever this coming Wednesday is. And listen to Patrick, and then go ahead and go consider signing up for this. I think it's completely free, but I don't know. Here, let me keep my mouth shut until I see. Yep, completely free, good. And also, and you'll hear this. This is sort of releasing it a little bit early, but it's not a 24-hour conference. It's a 23.999 hour conference. And I give him a hard time. It's like, well, man, you got to have 5 nines. This is an enterprise thing, right? But he says, well, this is an experiment, so it's only 3 nines. I went, oh, okay. So that's that. Let's see here. I got another question here. And let's go ahead and get back to us. I love Kubernetes, but not all my coworkers are convinced that its added complexity is worth it, even for large-scale microservices project. What's your take on that?
But it's similar to like from beginning of the conversation we had is
Yeah.
If we would try to do the same thing without Kubernetes, I cannot imagine it being less complex.
Well, here's what I think. Here's how I think they're thinking. I'm using Spring Boot to do my microservice. I'm probably going to be right on that, I'm guessing. If not, it's probably a little Go. Regardless, it's a self-contained package. It's like, we can just spin up a bunch of those on a single instance, and then, if we got our failover, so we'll deploy it to a couple instances. We put a load balancer out in front. That's a lot less complex than Kubernetes. It is, but it isn't.
It is until it fails.
Exactly.
Until it needs to be scaled.
Yep.
Until you need to figure out what to do with logs, and until you figure out what you're going to have to use to monitor the stuff and how you're going to do the discovery. Now, I'm not saying you definitely can make it less complex than Kubernetes, assuming that you don't need most of the things that Kubernetes gives you. And it's silly to use Kubernetes if you don't need it.
Exactly. Kubernetes is not always the right answer.
No, it's not. It is, but
okay.
But assuming that you need features that Kubernetes does provide,
yeah.
I really don't think it's easier without it. I do agree that Kubernetes is more complex than it should be. And I do know that there is a lot of effort in many different projects and people and companies and teams to simplify it. And it will be simpler. But nevertheless, it is still simpler than without it.
So then that's the discussion in the episode week after next, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the one with Adam. Yeah. So,
okay, yes.
So Patrick's is this Thursday on the 8th, and then we have a conversation with, I can't say Adam Sandor. Adam, please forgive me if I screw up your name, because you have lots of accents in your name, and I may not be saying it right. But we have a conversation around that of the complexity of Kubernetes, and Victor posed that it's too complex, and Adam says it's fine. There's nothing complex about it. It's a good episode. That's coming out on the 15th. So,
but I just sounded as if I'm saying opposite of what I was saying before. So
I know.
But we just clarify, Kubernetes is extremely complex, and it needs to be simpler for the world to fully adopt it.
Yes.
And I want Kubernetes not to be in hands of infrastructure people and sysadmins, but in hands of everybody. And for that, it needs to be simple. But it is still easier than without it.
Where does that line need to stop? Because somebody's got to own. There has to be a line to where the cross, because infra has to own it, right?
No. I mean, so
no?
infra needs to own the system, yes.
Okay.
Like an infra can be infra department, or it can be Google, right?
Okay.
Those are all infras, or combined, both, right?
Yep.
So yes, different teams own the system or parts of the system.
Yeah.
And for those people, I do not think that Kubernetes is complex at all. You need to learn it, but what I am worried is how complex it is for developers to take the work out of sysadmin's hands and take control of their part of the work, not of everything, but kind of.
Right.
And that is complex.
Yep.
Because before I could just kind of say, okay, what we were doing before is, okay, I'm a developer, I'm going to give you a zip file and that my work is done.
Right.
Shifting to the left or that left, I don't know
whichever left it is. To your right is the left. Okay. To close this one out, thanks again. Appreciate it. I've read a couple, mainly the Swarm books. Those Swarm books are dead now, by the way. Right? Did you unpublish them?
I didn't unpublish it yet. I'm going to write a note. I need to do that.
Okay.
And I mean, people still find it useful. So, and this is a huge huge applause to Docker. So I had to unpublish a lot of books, mostly because I don't believe that they're useful, very useful anymore. So maintenance of those books is too much for me. Right? Because every once in a while something changes, and I need to update it, and I'm fine doing with that as long as I believe in the technology. Now, I did not deprecate my Docker-related books, even though I think that Docker is deprecated simply because they still work. Kind of like the moment somebody tells me, Victor, this part of your book doesn't work, I'm going to deprecate it. But it still haven't happened.
Okay. All right. Another question. You ready?
I'm ready.
It's from Neil. Have you used other ingress controllers other than Nginx? And if so, which do you recommend?
I did use, in limited capacity, HA-proxy or whatever they're calling their ingress. I did use 3Apr, and probably at least one or two more. I think that none of them brought substantially bigger value on top of Nginx. And so my logic was always, I'm going to use Nginx simply because it's most widely adopted. I'm going to use something that is niche when it gives me sufficient advantage. Now, I'm not saying that none of those tools are better, but in my head, not sufficiently better. What is a sufficiently better jump is to ditch ingress altogether and jump into service mesh with some gateways or ingress or whatever they call it, right? The future of those, so I don't know whether, I haven't tried. Most likely you can use Envoy as ingress, then I would probably switch to Envoy. I don't know whether it's available as ingress. I haven't checked. But Envoy is the future and the present of those types of things, and it's mostly used with service meshes.
Yep. Well, let's take a look at that since you just brought it up. Envoy is ingress API function gateway to Kubernetes with glue.
Yeah, there you go.
But as far as today's hands-on, primarily 95% of the time you've been with Nginx.
Yeah. Simply, it was good enough for what Ingress does. The real problem is that Ingress itself is very limited and insufficient. So,
well, I mean, should it be smart? I mean, that's the thing inside of Kubernetes. Things are built to do a thing, right?
Yeah. But it's also kind of, even Kubernetes community admits that actually the proposal for Ingress API is far from being good. That's one of the few things that almost everybody agrees. And I don't think that it will get better simply because everybody's jumping to service mesh. So it's not a question Ingress versus Nginx versus other Ingress. It's kind of Nginx versus service mesh.
Service mesh.
Yeah.
And again, today's service mesh monster is Istio.
Istio, with the only potential candidate in my head to become the thing would be Linkerd.
Linkerd, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are others. That's the problem with Kubernetes. You never know what will be next year, but at least Istio is the most likely winner of the war.
Right. Let's see what else we got here. Neil, hopefully that helped answer your question. So basically, no, it's just Nginx. That's all I've ever dealt with personally. So,
because the problem, and here is the thing. Let's say that Neil, was it Neil? Yes.
Neil, yeah.
Let's say that you're using Helm to do your packaging and deployment of dependencies, stuff like that.
Yep.
And let's say that you need MySQL. I mean, it applies to anything else, Redis, right? It is most likely already has the options to hook it into Nginx ingress, and less likely options to hook it into other ingresses. And that's the thing. It's not only about what is better, what is worse, but what is. So I have two criteria, and both of them are equally valid. Either what is most widely adopted, so that I know that additional tooling will follow it. And the other one is what gives me substantially bigger value. So I'm willing to experiment if there is some real add-on
Real
value
upside.
in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something you can do something with.
Yeah.
So that's the last of the questions that I see right now. If anybody else is around, let me see. Let me jump back over here real quick. On the so we've talked about Kelsey, alcohol, and service mesh.
Yeah, and Kubernetes on-prem.
And Kubernetes on-prem.
In Germany.
In Germany. On Ubuntu, not SUSE. Right? So it is interesting, though. It's rare that I hear not SUSE in Germany. Other than Windows. Other than Windows, because Windows is Windows.
But it's also that I think that in the past, those things were more truer, if there's that word, that, kind of a software or a product from your country or region is most likely to be used in that region than other products. No, it's everything. Everything is global. Nobody cares that. I mean, I'm definitely not buying SAD because the factory is next to the city where I live.
Right. Okay. What else can we talk about? Anything else?
I don't know, man.
We still have 15 minutes to fill. Sort of.
We can always finish.
It's like a meeting, right? We have a meeting block for an hour, so we have to talk for the whole hour. I got in trouble with a client for that a number of years ago, before where I'm working now. Did I tell this story before?
No. Well, did you finish it earlier? And that is, they said that you owe them 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, it was a 30-minute meeting. Nobody else was saying anything, so I was like, well, if nobody needs anything else, and I was a contractor at the time. I was like, nobody needs anything else? Okay, bye. I'm hanging up the meeting. And I get a call from the CEO about 30 minutes later of the company. It's a smaller company. It's only like 600-700 people. He calls me up and it's like, hey, did you actually turn off that meeting? Like you hung him up because nobody else was saying anything? I went, yeah. He says, thank you. Because that means they were able to get back to work or stop whining about something else. I went, okay, cool. So Neil followed up with some of his questions here. I was asking because traffic currently has an advantage over Nginx.
Yes.
Your tummy?
No, that's my.
Oh, you're doing.
I'm
that's your
exercising.
workout. You're doing exercises now. Okay. Oh dear. All right. So anyway, here, focus. It can terminate both TCP and HTTP connections on the same port, which means you don't need multiple ingress. That's interesting.
I never had such a situation, to be honest.
Not on the same
DCP
port.
and HTTP, yes, but on the same port.
Why would you do the same port?
No, but I thought that wouldn't be possible. You would need actually to. It would need to be. Wouldn't it need to all to be TCP, basically, and then somehow simulate?
Because that would be. I'm assuming by TCP we're meaning a persistent connection open through that channel. And if it's already bound, you're not going to get anything else across that. I don't know. Let's see so let's go to the other side. I haven't spent any time trying to understand the service mesh yet. Spend time trying to figure out service mesh. That's the answer.
And why? Why on the same part?
Because it's like, why? I don't understand. So Neil, if you're still watching, put in the reason why, because I can't. I'm not.
Because, I understand in the past, we were all confused with having too many ports and then addresses and stuff like that because that was hard to manage and all those things, right? But today, with service discovery and all the goodness that we are getting through those areas, kind of, average cluster exposes thousands of ports and nobody cares. It's curious.
Yeah.
It must be that the application can somehow listens.
Maybe.
To a single port.
It doesn't make any sense to me, but
maybe.
that's the only thing that makes sense, but I can't think of anything else that would be. All right, so we got another question, not from Neil. So Neil, if you're still listening, go ahead. If you've got better clarity on the port thing that we're scratching our heads on, just go ahead and put it in there. Have you thought about going into the SRE space?
With the show? Do you think that was the question, or I mean,
I think it's
because to me, so this is officially called DevOps paradox show or something like that.
whatever it is. Yeah.
And to me, those are two. I mean, SRE DevOps are more or less the same thing. Where DevOps is more, and this is misunderstood, DevOps is more about the culture, while SRE is more like a stricter process, technical implementation of how we do things.
Yeah. If you don't know what SRE is, it's site reliability engineering. Google has the 2 books on it. In fact, you can read them online for free. Just go out to this URL, which is really hard to tell. In fact, I'll put it down in the chat. Let me see if I can do that. Yep, I can post a comment there. So I'll put that there. So they have the book and the workbook that you can read online for free. But I don't. So to me, SRE feels like, hey, I'm part of the SRE team. That's sort of like saying I'm part of the DevOps team.
So here's the thing. If I can make an analogy, so to me, DevOps would be equivalent to conceptually, not what it does, but it's equivalent to Agile. Mm-hmm. But SRE is equivalent of, let's say, XP, yes, which is one concrete set of practices under a wider umbrella, right? Then with Agile, we have Scrum, we have Kanban, we have XP, whatever, right? And actually, I remember when I talked, I forgot the name, doesn't matter, one of the Googlers, it's basically, yes, we are doing SRE, and then the world comes with DevOps. Actually, that's the same thing. That's how we do DevOps, kind of like, that's how our operations and system admins understood that, first of all, they need to develop. They're not kind of like copying and pasting commands. And they're in charge of keeping the system alive and teaching the developers and other teams how to deliver their applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can rename the DevOps and SRE paradox.
Sure. I mean, it's rare that I run into companies that actually have even heard of SRE.
In my experience, no. I think it is a buzzword now. I mean, it's a good
it's
buzzword,
definitely
right?
gotten more of a buzzword now than before, but it's still pretty rare.
It's trailing behind DevOps. So kind of like, if this is amount of people practicing Agile and then DevOps and then SRE, not a bit less time passed since that term became common.
There's another question, but I can't put it up. I'll have to filter.
Why not? Is it? It doesn't have the words.
It's talking about the day job, so I can't put that up.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. I can't put that one up. If you're watching this, you'll see the question in the chat. I'm sorry. I can't put it up. Let's see, what else is there? Oh, it's almost top of the hour. About time for me to get back to work. About time for you to do what? Go play for a little while and then get back to work yourself?
Either I'm going to go right now and play Luigi Mansion with my daughter, or I'm going to make a fatal mistake to open my phone and check email.
Here, give me your phone.
One of the two things.
Give me your phone. Give it right here. Right here. Don't look at email. Wait till tomorrow morning. I shouldn't. Well, whatever your morning is.
Yeah, I should.
It is Saturday. Oh wait, I have one last question. We'll let this one be the last question. Here we go. I've only been in a DevOps role for the past 1 to 2 years. Here, I'll say it. Okay, I've only been in a DevOps role since the past 1 to 2 years, and there are so many things to learn and keep in mind. What should I focus on, or is it really about a vast diversity of skills?
depends. So
Yeah.
every company, in my experience, interprets it differently, and most of them interpret it wrongly because I'm the
Yes.
only one who is always right. So DevOps, as I understand it, is about development operational skills being working together to accomplish something.
Yes.
Right? And that something can be development of your application, or it can be managing of a system. It can be many different things, but it's about acknowledgement that development operations are required, that one cannot work without the other, and that silos between those need to be broken.
Yep.
That's how I understand it. And then the diversity of skills, it really depends on. If you accept that definition of DevOps, then it can be anything, because I don't know, maybe it's a Java application. Maybe your job is to develop a Java application, deploy to the cluster. Then the skills are one. Maybe your job is to manage that cluster.
Yep.
Now, in reality, most companies use the term DevOps as an excuse to say, basically, you're doing everything for me. You're managing my everything. Jira, Jenkins,
You're
Kubernetes.
the DevOps team.
Yeah.
Which really isn't DevOps. You're just a glorified sysadmin.
Yeah. That's similar like how many companies understood that Agile is about delivering in 2 weeks what they were delivering in 3 months.
Yeah. It's not true. It's not true. It's just those people are big A Agile and not little A Agile. If you don't know the difference between big A Agile and little A Agile.
No, but I have a pretty good.
So big A Agile means they read a book or read a blog post. Little A Agile means they're actually shipping and getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we deployed it and something broke. We got to fix it. Okay, it's fixed. That's little A Agile. Big A Agile will be like, we shipped something and it broke. Okay, let's go create a new epic for that and then start tracking against the 6 JIRAs. We need to set up 6 daily scrums in order to come up with that. Exactly. And by the time that you actually have all these things, it would have been done 4 weeks ago. But no, due to ceremony, we have to go through this process.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not saying big A Agile is bad. If you're living in a chaotic environment and you're not getting anything done, then big A Agile gives you a structure in which to work in. But at some point, I hope you graduate from big A Agile to little A Agile, to where you found what works, how you get your stuff done, and things just happen.
That's probably the main advantage that I think that Agile gives us. It gives unnecessary structure into teams that need it.
Yes.
Because are lost and dysfunctional.
Yep. If you've got a team if you have a team that's shipping in a reasonable cadence, whether that's every day or every week, and they're always making forward progress, they don't need big A Agile. They might need some, massaging to improve the little A Agile. It's like, okay, what can we optimize out of this now is there anything that we're doing that we don't need to be doing anymore? What ceremony can we remove? That's what you want to do. That's my 20 cents.
Funny, wasn't it 2 cents, the expression?
Well,
you gave us more.
I gave
10
you
times more.
I gave you 10 times more. Probably more than you didn't really care to hear about, but I'm on this side of the camera and you're not. Sorry. Okay. I actually do have to get back to work. I got a call here in a few minutes. So for everybody that hang out with us today, thanks for hanging out. Obviously, this will be posted right back to YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, DevOpsParadox.com, or go to any of your favorite places that you're listening to podcasts. One thing I have noticed about podcasts recently, not just ours, but other people I've talked to, is the listens have gone down. One of the numbers that I look at is the number of downloads in the first 7 days. That's sort of like how books are, right? The first 7 days of a book will typically get you onto some sort of bestsellers list. I'm seeing the numbers go down. And the people I've talked to, I'm seeing numbers go down. And I'm attributing this to people aren't commuting anymore.
Yes, I was having the same
And
thought. Yes,
it's
because look, let's be honest. When I'm at home, if I'm gonna choose between Netflix and this podcast,
Yeah.
I'm choosing Netflix. But
absolutely.
since I cannot watch Netflix while I'm driving, I might choose a podcast.
Yep. Neil, we did talk about the traffic side. Let me see. So here, hang on a second. Make sure I wasn't. Okay, so Neil says, I think you overlooked my follow-up about the situation I was running into. And we talked about, my mouse is not working now. I was asking because of traffic, and we talked about this. So this is the question. Either that or if you posted something else, I don't see it in the chat. Because this is where we were scratching our head about why would I want to have TCP and HTTP on the same port? I don't understand. We were scratching. Or is it me and I forgot something else? Okay. I don't know. We'll be back next week, Neil.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I do have to get back to work. But anyway, that's it for today. And be sure to listen to the episode that comes out on Wednesday with Patrick. I was going to say Neil. That's not. It's Patrick Dubois.
Patrick Dubois.
So that'll be good. Oh, by the way, while we're still in the chat, let me give all the talks link in the chat as well, just so that's there. And thanks everybody for showing up today. Have a great weekend. Get outside if you can get outside. If you can't, and Neil, here, I'll go with this, and this be the last comment for the day. Also, you can listen to podcasts while you walk your dog instead of during your commute. That's what I do, except I don't walk
I
my
have
dog.
a cat.
Man,
My
son-in-law's sister has a cat, and she walks him on a leash. You got no excuse.
Actually, dogs are in big demand now in Spain because you're allowed to go out only for grocery or to walk a dog. So if you want exercise, you need to get a dog.
You got to get a dog. Interesting. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. See you, Victor.
See you.